Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we're going to review, of course, the L Word, the original L Word, season 2, episode 13, the season finale for that season. For the first couple of minutes, I'm just going to talk about some changes on the channel or what's going to happen in the future. So if you're not interested in that, I will take absolutely no offense, and I've timestamped down below. And if you click on that, it will take you straight to the review. So I just wanted to let you guys know I finally made my mind up about what I'm gonna do going forward with the channel. I'm sure some of you have either watched or seen the titles if you've got the bell notification on, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification. But I've been doing some different things on the channel, like a little bit of vlogs, a little bit of crime, other things, some other shows, and I've still obviously done the L Word reviews, but there's nothing that I found that I like doing as much as I like doing the L Word. And in all honesty, if there wasn't a pandemic right now, we would be at least getting trailers probably this month or next month going on what happened last year with Generation Q. So there'd be a lot to talk about, and the show would be coming back relatively soon, within the next few months. But as we all know, that's not happening anytime soon. They haven't even started filming the new season. So it's gonna be a while until there is new content. And I did say I'm not gonna do an episode by episode of season 3. I'm gonna do it like a two-parter, with one video going over the first half of the season and a second video going over the second half of the season. So once I finish with those, I'm halfway through the original show. Sorry if this screen keeps moving a little bit, Gloria's walking underneath it. So when I get to season 6, I have a feeling that the Generation Q season 2 won't be out. So I love the L Word, I love talking about it. It seems to be by far and away what you guys are most interested in, what you're here for, what you want to talk about, hear me talk about. So I've been thinking a lot about this, probably too much to be honest. And due to the position that we are in, with there's really not a lot of new shows coming back, and even stuff that's finishing off now, there's just not going to be new TV for a while. As much as it sucks, we all just have to accept we're really not going to be getting any new television anytime soon. The stock that they have, the little bit of stuff they shot before the pandemic, is running out, and it's nothing that I like as much as the L Word anyway. So I have decided that I'm gonna put my old psychology degree to use, and starting next week I'm going to be doing videos of the L Word and talking about specific subjects in relation to the L Word. So for example, how the LGBTQ community is portrayed in the L Word, how men are portrayed in the L Word, how different socioeconomic classes are portrayed in the L Word, how relationships are portrayed in the L Word. They're just some of the ones that I've been thinking of. So if there is anything specific that you would like me to talk about in relation to the L Word, and it will involve all 6 seasons and Generation Q, I mean, you can really go to town with this. You could even talk about how technology has changed in the L Word from original series to Generation Q. And that's an actually really interesting topic when you look at Alice and the way she actually, started this whole chart thing way before we had any sort of form of social media that we have nowadays, and YouTube and all those things. Like, they just weren't around when the original L Word came out, or they were in their very, very infancy. I mean, that's partially why I thought I could do the L Word, and I could even go back and do the old seasons, because there wasn't really people doing reactions and reviews when the original L Word played. I mean, I know there's a few people that if you search, they do like the whole season and stuff, but there definitely isn't, for shows that are on now, like something like 90 Day Fiancé, if you type in that and a review, like you have thousands to choose from. So that is the plan going forward. There will be some other content that I still randomly will do. If I see something that really interests me, of course I'll talk about it. If there's something else that is in relation to our community or anything like that, I'll of course talk about it. But moving forward, this is what I'm thinking of doing, unless for some reason everybody absolutely hates it and nobody wants to see it, and then I, will have to change my tact. But this is what I'm thinking of going forward. So thank you for listening to that little bit of ramble, and welcome back to our people who just want to see the review. So without further ado, after my ramble, let's go on to the season 2 finale, episode 13, Lacuna. Everyone knows the drill by now, starting off with Jenny. This is a really difficult episode for Jenny, as across the whole season we've basically seen her taking some really dark turns. She's seriously having some major issues. I mean, her and Shane at the beginning have kind of a conversation where Shane's saying, "Why are you doing this? I'm concerned." Personally, if it was me and my friend was doing what Jenny was doing, I'd be a little bit more forceful, because this isn't your average normal train. This isn't your normal like acting out behavior. Jenny is seriously going through something major, and I think it's a bit of a laid back approach that Shane takes, but she hasn't seen to, I think Shane's quite, not, I don't want to say self-involved, but she's kind of a laid back person in general, so I don't think she's going into the conversation thinking, Jenny's in desperate need of some help. So as we see by the end of the episode, Jenny absolutely needs some help, and this can be kind of a trigger for some people, even talking about this stuff. So I guess trigger warning for any talk of like self-abuse. I'm really briefly only going to talk about it. It's something that's nearly unanimously a female problem. I don't want to say that there's no men, because I'm sure there is men that suffer from it, but I remember when I was in university, like I think I've mentioned before, one of my degrees is in psychology, and we would talk about this sort of thing. I don't know how YouTube feels about me saying the actual words, but it's something that's a lot more common than people think, and it is kind of a release for some people, or that everybody has coping mechanisms, whether they're healthy or not, and this is a form of a coping mechanism. Obviously, if that is something that anyone does, they need help and need to redirect their issues and feelings into a different coping mechanism. But a lot of women do grow out of it also, so I'm glad the show addressed this and showed it, because it's not something that's really shown a lot, but I know it is a very difficult conversation to have with people. But respect to the show for actually showing it, and a lot of things that the show explored through Jenny, so major props there. Shane and Carmen finally start their relationship in this episode, and when they finally do get together, well, for a relationship get together, the music is so weird. I'm pretty sure it's Bette like doing kind of a version of the theme song, but they're just saying Carmen and Shane. It is really strange. There wasn't too much going on with them this episode. I mean, their scene of them hooking up was really long, especially for the show. I mean, Carmen and Shane didn't have crazy amounts to do in this episode. I mean, Carmen was, giving Bette's message to Kit, and this hookup scene with Shane, and Shane had her talk with Jenny, but it's more, they were in a few group scenes and that's it. But their hookup scene was really long, longer than most of those scenes on the show, but I don't think anyone was complaining. Alice and Dana. Alice obviously is sensing that something is going on with Dana and Lara, and I really feel for Alice, because I've totally been in this position myself, and I know that she gives the Lenny metaphor and don't hold on, too tight, and you're being weird, and it's obvious Alice is like being over the top and smothering Dana, but Dana is the one that is at fault here, in my opinion, because she is being so crap to Alice. Like, she's openly at a funeral talking to her ex and basically telling her she looks great. Like, this is such a betrayal to your partner that you're with. And Alice is like basically in earshot. It's it's totally obvious from their body language and everything, and just the way they're chatting and looking at each other. And I feel really bad for Alice. Maybe this is my own personal bias coming out, which it probably is, but you either are with that person or you're not. Like, don't try and have your cake and eat it too, and basically drag this other person along. But if you're with that person and love them, you wouldn't be having this thing going on with her and Lara. So Dana is in the wrong in my book, but I'm sure some other people feel differently. Helena in this episode is majorly spinning out. I don't know why. Like, she really makes me laugh in this episode because she's basically having a tantrum throughout the whole episode, and only a super loaded trust fund person who doesn't really have to work and doesn't really have to take care of their own kids could wear an entire bright white suit all day that doesn't even have like crease lines. I don't know why when I look at that, I just always think, you know, there's only a certain class of people that could get away with that. At the beginning of the episode, when Helena kind of accosts Bette and Tina in the car park, she's having her tantrum as they're going in to have their hospital appointment. And I don't know whether this was intentional, but Helena's in this kind of bright white, trying to portray this perfect angelic person, and Bette and Tina, although they're in like pink, red, orange, like the same sort of color palette, but also like Tina has red and pink, which normally I would never wear red and pink, and then orange, like all of them contrast, but they're in the same, you know, color family. But more importantly is when they're walking into the hospital, Helena is like following them and stuff, and the way that they're walking and like their body language, it's like choreographed. Like, even when they both turn around, like it's so in sync with each other. And just me, I think like that's trying to show like they're back together and they're meant to be together, and then Helena's this like wrench in the plan and would never work with Tina sort of thing. The one thing I did really like, I mean, we did get Holland Taylor back for this episode, who she always is great, and I really liked how when they're having lunch, like Peggy Peabody is treating Winnie as if she's really like an ex-wife, you know, like giving her a place to live, and you know, it's obviously a really nice place and stuff. So it is nice to see for once, you know, someone doing the right thing when gay marriage wasn't legal, rather than the wrong thing, and seeing how they could like shaft them and cheat them. And of course, onto my personal favourite, Bette and Tina, and I will explain how I get a little bitter at this episode at the end, but we do get the fantastic joke of when the birthing pool comes, and when they're kind of discussing putting it together, and they're like, some lesbians are good at putting things together, like carpenters. I always laugh, no matter how many times I've seen that episode. It's a good one. There is some moments in the L Word in general that kind of take me out of it when I see the old technology, and it reminds me just how old the show is. And when they're taking everything out of the birthing pool, Bette hands Tina like some VHS tapes, and yeah, that just, I mean, it's when you see their phones too, you realize how long it's been since you first watched the show when it premiered. There are some really nice Bette and Tina scenes in this episode, like, of course, even just the really subtle ones where it's the night before the funeral, and there's no even dialogue or anything. Bette obviously says one word, and when Tina comes in, and you know, Bette's upset obviously about her dad's funeral being tomorrow, so those are some really nice moments that we don't get too much of on the show, especially in the upcoming seasons. At Bette's dad's funeral, we do get the famous little gif that I personally use all the time. The one where she's like, I'd like to effing kill someone. You perhaps. Like, it's awesome. I use it so much. And there's a lot of that face that I always talk about that every professional woman has to use when they're talking to an idiot. So yeah, Franklin is just a douchebag and basically fires Bette at her dad's funeral. I mean, how low can you go? Of course, the major thing that happens for Bette and Tina in this episode is Angelica is born, and it is so cool to, I know obviously it's not the same baby that is the actress, but seeing a character that's born and now seeing a character that's not only a teenager and 16 and we're seeing their life, but is identifying in some, I mean, I know Angie hasn't said that she's lesbian, but is obviously identifying in some sort of gay, bisexual, pansexual something. So I think that's really cool, and I always just get a kick out of, you know, that this character has existed since birth in the realm of the show. The things that make me a little bit, not, I don't want to say annoyed when I watch this episode, is the whole thing about this episode, now watching it when we've seen what happened with Generation Q, it just really makes me think about how this whole putting Bette and Tina through so much all the time. I know the show needs drama, but it's just excessive in my opinion, because they couldn't just have a normal home birth. It had to be this huge drama where rushed to the hospital, and then they did the whole baiting as if Tina was like gonna die or something, or, and it's like they're not Josh Whedon and Buffy. They're not gonna kill off like one of the leads. It's just they can never let Bette and Tina be normal and a happy relationship. I mean, they did in season 6, but then we got Generation Q and they're divorced and this total mess. And that, I didn't used to feel this way about this episode. I used to feel as though, okay, they get put through this, you know, even when they're having the baby, like, you know, hell, and the whole of season 2 where they were split up and back together, and then season 3, which is just a disaster on every level, and season 4 where they're working their way back to each other, season 5 amazing, season 6 Bettina wise amazing. And then in our heads we could think, oh, they were moving to New York and they were going to adopt another kid and everything was great and they stayed together forever and butterflies and rainbows and everything. But that's not what happened. We got Generation Q and they were divorced, quite angry, bitter. And the thing that's the most annoying is it appears as the reason they got divorced is the stuff that happened in season 1 that throughout all these other seasons they worked on, and Bette made room for Tina and blah 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 that I've talked about before. So I just look at this episode differently now since Generation Q came out, because I don't see it as this like starting block of, okay, they're gonna go through some absolute hell and, you know, the next 2 seasons they're not going to be together, but they find their way back to each other and get a happy ending. I see this now as just another thing that Bette and Tina were put through, and then they're constantly going through this like yo-yo of together, not together, go through hell, together, not together, go through hell. And I mean, maybe I'll feel differently about it if in Generation Q they do get them back together, but for right now I'm just like, come on guys, can we have one, only one lesbian couple that you can look at and be like, this is the couple that we aspire to, you know, find our person or whatever, because the world is filled with Ross and Rachel and Meredith and Derek and Ben and Leslie and all these people, and we don't have anyone now. They need to sort this out. And that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. I always feel as though this episode is like a penultimate episode. I always feel like there should be a real season finale. Like, this is the episode before and everything's been like built up and tied off, and the little bit at the end where Angie's born and stuff, that's like a real season finale, but it just seems as though there's still like a lot of things out of place. And as I said at the beginning, you know, season 3, I'm gonna do part 1 that's kind of just, this is what happens in the first half of the episodes, part 2, this is what happens in the second part, and then season 4 I'll go back to doing episode by episode. I know I was going to announce the winner of the t-shirt in this episode, but I hit record before I ran the names, so this is the last chance extra bonus episode to enter. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on this or any L word video, and I will announce it, promise, in the first part of the season 3 episodes review. As I also mentioned, I'm going to be exploring different topics in the L word, so I have an idea for the first couple of ones. If there's anything that you think would be interesting to talk about or that you've never seen anyone else talk about, please put it down in the comment section down below. And don't forget to follow me on social media to keep up with everything L word related and a little bit extra in between my videos. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video, as it really helps out the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the weekend. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye.